Hey there, Drowsy Historian here. Tonight you're not a hero or a heretic or some tragic queen waiting to be beheaded. You're a patient, which is to say, you've stopped being a person with opinions and started being a problem with paperwork. You've been deemed nervous, melancholic, unmanageable. Maybe you spoke too sharply. Maybe you stopped speaking at all. Either way, you're here now, in a place where the walls are clean, the windows are barred, and recovery looks suspiciously like forgetting. No one asked what broke you. They just promised to fix it. Before we start sharpening the ice pick and reminding you that better is a word with very flexible definitions, do me a quiet favour. Leave a comment letting me know where you're listening from and what time it is there. If you'd like early access to these soft, institutional nightmares, ad-free audio of the episodes, or just want to support the show, you'll find the Patreon link in the description. But for now, lie back, get comfortable, and remember, the quieter you are, the safer they feel. Let's begin. It doesn't begin with a scream. There's no snapping point, no dramatic collapse, no moment when your eyes roll back and the world takes on a sinister hue. That's how they show it in films. But that's not how it happens. In real life, it starts much more softly. It starts when you stop smiling at the right time, when your dinner goes cold too often, when your gaze lingers on the floor a little longer than people think it should. It starts when you respond to concern with silence, or to questions with too many words. It starts, in other words, with inconvenience. You're not violent, you don't hurt yourself, you don't threaten others, you just fail to perform the role expected of you. Maybe you're a mother who no longer touches her children. Maybe you're a housewife who stopped making breakfast. Maybe you're a clerk who keeps arriving late without any good reason. Or a war veteran who came back with all your limbs, but none of your composure. You're too quiet at the wrong times, too sad in the wrong places, too awake when you should be numb. You have no diagnosis. Not yet. Just whispers, furrowed brows, and polite suggestions that perhaps you could use some rest. Rest, of course, comes with caveats. You don't choose where you'll rest. You don't choose how long. 1 minute, you're being advised to take care of yourself. The next, you're being asked, firmly, kindly, insistently, to pack a bag. Maybe someone from the family brings you. Maybe someone from work. A minister, a supervisor, a husband. They assure you it's temporary. It's for your benefit. No one says the word asylum out loud. It hangs there unsaid, like the scent of bleach on a clean floor. The intake process is smooth, efficient. There are forms you don't remember signing and questions you barely answer before they're filled in for you. You give your name, your age. Someone else gives your explanation. Melancholia, hysteria, shell shock, depressive tendencies. You notice how quickly the people in white coats nod. Your fate is written in pencil, but it only takes a few strokes to make it permanent. No one seems particularly interested in your version of events. The building itself is neat, institutional, well kept. Not a dungeon, not a horror movie. A converted mansion, perhaps, or a government-built facility with too many windows that never open. The beds are clean, the halls are long, and the staff are pleasant in that distant, rehearsed way that tells you kindness is a performance here, not a principle. You're led to your room, not a cell, not quite, but the door locks from the outside. No one explains that detail. It doesn't need explaining. You try to keep track of the days at first. That doesn't last. Mealtimes come with a bell. Lights out comes with another. The routine replaces the calendar, and your own sense of time begins to blur. You start to understand that nothing is expected of you, except compliance. You don't have to get better. You just have to be quiet, harmless, agreeable. If you're lucky, you'll be described as improving. If not, they'll say your case is interesting. It's easy to confuse kindness for care here. The nurses call you dear and sweetheart. They offer warm hands and warm broth, but never answers. They touch your shoulder gently when they guide you into therapy. They don't use force, they don't need to. You begin to realize that refusal is a diagnosis, resistance is a symptom. The only way out, if there even is one, is through cooperation. So you sit where you're told, you take the pills they offer, you smile, awkwardly, mechanically, because that's what they like best. Therapy is not what you expect. There are no deep conversations, no real questions, just evaluation, observation, notes scribbled in margins you'll never read. Sometimes you're asked to draw pictures, sometimes to solve puzzles. Mostly, you're asked to exist in a way that doesn't disturb anyone. They want to see you brushing your hair, folding a towel, speaking in full sentences, but only when spoken to. Any deviation is carefully recorded, as if you're a specimen under glass. And you are. You are no longer a person with context. You are a case, a file, a collection of symptoms slowly being moulded into something that can be treated. Your emotions are no longer yours. They're classified, graded, measured against a standard you've never seen. It doesn't matter what you feel, it matters what they observe. If you weep too often, you're depressed. If you stop weeping, you're dissociative. Either way, something is wrong. Something always is. You hear rumours, of course, stories passed between patients, in whispers behind hands. Treatments, electrical shocks, cold baths, long vacant stares that return from certain rooms. You try not to think about those stories. You tell yourself that you'll be fine because you're not like them. You're not difficult, not anymore. You do what you're told, you make eye contact, you say thank you. You pretend you're improving, and you almost believe it. But deep down, there's a flicker, a quiet understanding that it doesn't matter what you believe. You were inconvenient once, that's all it takes. Your consent is no longer a requirement. It's a courtesy they don't always extend. The moment you walked through that door, you entered a new category of existence, one where your rights are conditional. Your choices are curated. Your mind, such as it is, belongs to someone else's definition of health. Eventually, your name is mentioned in a meeting you're not invited to. A decision is made, a recommendation signed. You're not told the details, you're just told that something new might help, that the doctor will see you soon. Not your doctor, the doctor, the one who drives from facility to facility with tools in a suitcase and credentials like a travelling miracle. You don't understand what they mean, and that's by design. The less you ask, the more you're considered stable. You don't remember when you stopped being a person and became a patient, but the transformation was seamless. Paperwork instead of a farewell, smiles instead of consent. And now, here you are, catalogued, compliant, and quietly being prepared for something no one will explain. You are no longer at risk. You are no longer loud. You are, by all appearances, calm. They say you're getting better. You haven't spoken in 3 days. The building does not look like a place where lives are erased. From the outside, it might pass as respectable. Columns, clean brick, a modest lawn trimmed by someone who's forgotten how to look up. The name on the sign is soft and nondescript. Wellhaven, Sunny Acres, something falsely cheerful. It does not say asylum, and it certainly doesn't say warehouse for the inconvenient. But that's what it is. You arrive not in chains, but in suggestion. You are not dragged, you are welcomed. The lobby's clean and bright in a way that makes your skin itch. A nurse at the desk greets you like a guest at a dull hotel. There's a clipboard, a pen. You're asked questions, some of which you answer, and some of which seem rhetorical. Your belongings are taken, not stolen, but stored for safety. You are weighed and examined, and quietly reduced. They ask if you know where you are, but it doesn't matter if you get it wrong. They've already written down the answer they want. You are shown to your room. It has a bed, a chair, a dresser, and nothing sharp. The sheets are tucked too tightly to sleep in, and the pillow feels like it's been stuffed with apology. The walls are white. The ceiling is white. The floor is clean in a way that only happens in places where no one really lives. There are no locks on your side of the door. That, they say, is for your protection. You're not sure from whom. Your clothing is replaced with something loose and vaguely medical. It is not humiliating, just bland, designed to strip away personality without causing complaint. You are no longer you. You are a patient. You are someone being cared for, watched over, rehabilitated. That's what they call it, rehabilitation. As if your humanity is a broken wrist to be reset. The nurses call you sweetheart, the doctors call you the subject. No one uses your last name unless it's on a chart. The first few days are a blur of observation. You are not asked to do much, only to exist in a way that can be recorded. You are watched during meals, during rest, during the small group activities that no one finds meaningful. You learn quickly that stillness is rewarded. That speech must be light, non-confrontational, and brief. That silence is suspicious unless it is passive. If you laugh too loudly, they write that down. If you cry, they offer a sedative. If you ask too many questions, you are redirected, gently but firmly, towards something safer. Drawing, perhaps, or a jigsaw puzzle missing its corners. Meals are predictable and tasteless, which is part of the design. The food is not meant to nourish so much as regulate. You eat when the bell rings. You finish what you're given. You do not ask for more. You do not refuse. The grey mass on your plate is called meatloaf, though it contains no meat you can identify. The peas are uniform in size, texture, and despair. Someone at your table stirs their food without ever eating. No one comments. It's normal here. There are rules, so many rules. Wake-up time is precisely 7. Lights out is 9:30. Showers are taken on alternate days unless otherwise scheduled. No physical contact, no unsupervised reading, no conversations that include certain words. Suicide, escape, help. You're not given a list, but you learn it the hard way. You step out of line, even gently, and someone in white appears with a smile and a clipboard. Everything is written down. Everything means something. You are not in a straitjacket. That's a detail people always get wrong. The horror isn't in the restraints, it's in the routine. It's in how easily you adapt to the schedule. You stop asking when you'll go home, not because you've given up hope, but because the question has become inappropriate. You don't want to draw attention. You've seen what happens to the ones who ask too much. They disappear for a day or two and return quieter, flatter, less there. Eventually, your name is called for therapy. You're led to a small office where a man with neat hair and a tie that looks too tight for comfort sits behind a desk. He asks how you're feeling, but doesn't seem interested in your answer. His pen scratches along your file, even when you don't speak. He nods a lot, murmurs affirmations, and sometimes hums as if you're a piece of music slightly out of tune. You begin to understand that the goal is not honesty, but acceptability. You say what you think he wants to hear, and you're praised for being cooperative. There is group therapy too, though no one really talks. It's mostly staring at the floor in folding chairs while someone reads a prompt from a handout. You're told to reflect on your progress. You're not sure what progress means here. Progress seems to mean not making anyone else uncomfortable. The ones who speak too much are monitored. The ones who say nothing are monitored more. You learn to occupy the middle. Polite nods, vague answers, just enough life to avoid suspicion. The nurses always smile. It's one of the more unnerving features of the place. Their kindness is constant and impersonal, like a hotel concierge or a stewardess mid-turbulence. They call you by your first name and touch your arm when they speak to you, but their eyes never match the warmth in their voices. You wonder what happens behind those smiles, whether they sleep well at night, whether they remember your name after shift change, whether it matters. The orderlies are different. They don't smile as much, they speak less. They appear suddenly without sound to escort patients from one place to another. Their presence is like gravity, unspoken, inescapable, constant. When someone becomes disruptive, an orderly is called. When someone stops complying, an orderly is summoned. You do not want to meet the orderlies in any room where no one else is watching. You start to recognize the faces of other patients. They're all a little blurred, a little quiet, like they're slowly dissolving from the inside. Some twitch, some rock. Some have already had something done to them, something you can't quite name. Their eyes don't meet yours. They walk as if pulled by invisible strings and speak in slow, deliberate syllables, like each word is a task. You wonder if that will happen to you. You wonder if it already is. Sometimes at night, you hear sounds through the wall. Not screams exactly. Not anymore. Just low, rhythmic moans, or the clink of metal, or a kind of silence that feels deliberate. You press your ear to the plaster once and are met with nothing but your own breath. It's safer not to know. You pull the thin blanket up over your head and tell yourself it's just the building settling. Or a bad dream. Or therapy in progress. You don't know what treatments are offered here. Not exactly. No one tells you. You only know that people come back changed. That the ones who resist vanish. That the ones who nod and comply are left alone. Mostly. You understand, even if no one says it, that survival here is a matter of tone and timing. Don't speak too early. Don't cry too loud. Never refuse outright. Keep your posture soft. Keep your voice light. Don't ask what happened to the woman in 2B. Don't look too long at the man who used to sing but doesn't anymore. Eventually, someone in a coat will mention your name in passing. You'll be described as a candidate to... You won't be told for what, but you'll see the way the nurse's smile tightens when she hears it. You'll notice the subtle shift in the air around you, like the room itself has decided to lean away. You've been observed, catalogued, evaluated, and now you're eligible. For what, you don't know, not yet, but you'll find out soon enough. You don't know exactly when the air changes, but it does, subtly at first. The nurses grow crisper, the orderlies less conversational. Charts are shuffled more often, kept tighter against chests. The tone in the halls becomes subdued, as if the building itself is bracing for something. You're not told why, but you don't need to be. Around here, silence always means something. His name arrives before he does. Freeman, Dr. Walter Freeman. You hear it in snippets. Admiring, cautious, reverent. He's not just a doctor, not like the others. He's the doctor, the innovator, the one from the papers, the one who fixed the unfixable. The nurses speak about him in the same tone they use for new medication. Hesitant hope, wrapped in clinical detachment. You don't know what he looks like, but you know he's important. And that important people are never harmless. When he does arrive, it isn't in a limousine or a convoy. It's a van. Unmarked, unremarkable. Pale and boxy like a delivery truck. He calls it his Lobotomobile. You're told it with a small chuckle, like it's a bit of trivia, something to lighten the mood. No one laughs. You picture a man in the driver's seat, humming along to the radio, carrying a case full of instruments and convictions. You don't meet him, not directly. Patients rarely meet the men who change their lives. You see glimpses, a tall silhouette in a hallway, a quick flash of a smile as he consults with a nurse. Always smiling, always moving with purpose. You hear more than you see. How he doesn't use an operating room. How he doesn't need anesthesia. How he can treat a dozen patients before lunch. It's framed as efficiency, as progress. No one mentions risk. No one ever does. The staff listens to him. Reverently, obediently. They gather when he speaks, nodding at his words like scripture. He explains his method with the ease of a man who has told this story 1,000 times. No scalpels, no blood, just a slender metal instrument, inserted above the eye, a few quick taps to the frontal lobe, and, miracle, peace. You hear him say it once, passing by an office with the door ajar. We don't need to cure madness, we just need to quiet it. You wonder if that sentence was meant for anyone in particular. It was. Soon after, the rhythm of the ward begins to shift. Patients are evaluated with new urgency. Some are taken aside for tests they didn't ask for. Others vanish for a day and return slower, quieter, changed. The ones who spoke in full sentences now stare into their food. The ones who resisted now fold towels with perfect docility. You ask a nurse what's happening. She smiles and tells you not to worry, that it's all very safe, that the doctor knows exactly what he's doing. The silence after that is louder than anything else. Your own file is taken more often. You see your name on clipboards that pass between hands. You're called in for extra checkups, interviews with unfamiliar doctors who ask the same questions over and over. Do you sleep well? Do you hear voices? Do you understand why you're here? You answer carefully, aware that tone matters more than truth. When you ask questions back, they're politely ignored. Let's focus on your recovery, they say, with the finality of a door clicking shut. You try to convince yourself that you're safe, that you're not the kind of patient he's here for, that you've been cooperative, obedient, unremarkable. But something's changed. Your meals are delivered later, your walks are shorter, conversations hush when you pass by. The others avoid your eyes. It's not cruelty, it's caution. They've seen this before. You haven't. Then one morning your name is called. It's a nurse you know well, but today her smile doesn't reach her eyes. She tells you the doctor will be seeing you now. Not your doctor, the doctor. You are to accompany her down the hall. She says it gently, like it's nothing, like you're being summoned for a minor checkup, a glance at your ears, a quick tap on the knee with a little rubber hammer. But her hands shake as she holds the clipboard, just slightly, enough to tell the truth. You rise, you walk, not because you agree, not because you understand, but because resistance here is dangerous. You've seen what happens to the ones who refuse, the ones who argue, the ones who shout. They vanish for a while. When they return, they fold their clothes without being asked. They don't blink as much. They don't speak at all. The hallway feels longer today. The linoleum echoes more than it should. The doors you pass are closed, some locked, some ajar with eyes behind them that don't quite look at you. You feel like a visitor in your own body, moving through space you no longer control. The nurse says nothing more, just walks ahead, always a step too fast. You're led past the main therapy rooms, past the recreational area, past the place where the quiet patients sit on benches and pretend to read. This hallway ends in a part of the building you've never seen before. A wing kept closed most days. Now it's open. The lights here are brighter, colder. The smell of disinfectant hits you like a slap, sharp and deliberate, as if trying to convince you that something here is clean. At the end of the hall is a door. It's propped open casually, but that doesn't make it any less ominous. Inside you catch the edge of a white sheet, a tray of metal tools arranged like silverware, and a man in shirt sleeves with a clipboard. You recognize him even though you've never been this close. Walter Freeman. He doesn't look like a monster. He looks like a dentist, the kind who tells you to relax before pulling something out of your skull. He turns to you and smiles like you're a long-lost friend. He says your name, not coldly, not kindly, just as a formality, the way one names a chair before sitting in it. He greets you like a colleague, says he's going to help, that he's excited, that he's seen so many improvements lately. You say nothing. You're not sure if you can speak. The nurse places a gentle hand on your back, guiding you into the room. The tray of instruments glints in the overhead light. They are not labelled. They do not need to be. The air smells like alcohol and rubber gloves. The chair in the middle of the room is reclined, waiting. You step forward, your legs moving without permission. Behind you, the door closes. You're not led to a surgical table. There's no gleaming operating room, no rows of masked doctors, no anesthesia mask hovering above your face. That's not how this works. You're seated in a reclining chair, the kind you've seen in a dentist's office. It's not meant for surgery. It doesn't have to be. This is modern medicine after all. Quick, efficient, painless, they say. The nurse helps you lie back. Her hands are firm, not unkind. She avoids your eyes, you notice that immediately. She adjusts your position, then busies herself with a cloth, a tray, anything that isn't you. She tells you it'll only take a few minutes. That's the selling point, really. The speed. You think of all the things that have taken longer. A walk, a haircut. This will take less time than a conversation. You wonder what that says? Freeman is humming. Something tuneless and irritatingly upbeat. He checks the tools laid out beside him, wiping one with a cloth, even though it looks clean. The metal shines under the harsh overhead lights. You recognize it immediately. You wish you didn't. It looks like a long, narrow pick, blunt at the end, like a skewer. It's called an orbitoclast. That's the medical term. Sounds clinical, inventive. Nothing about it sounds like what it does. He doesn't explain the procedure. Not really. You've read nothing, signed nothing. He's told the staff that informed consent isn't necessary for these patients, you included. He says it's an intervention, not a negotiation, that you'll be better after, that the chaos in your head will quiet down. You didn't know there was chaos. You thought there was just fatigue, confusion, sadness maybe, but apparently that qualifies. He rubs antiseptic around your left eye. The smell is sharp and stings your nose. A small needle pricks the skin, just above your cheekbone. A local anaesthetic. It burns more than you expect. You try not to flinch, but he notices anyway. Almost done, he says, even though nothing has started. It's a line he's used hundreds of times. Reassurance, not truth. Then he lifts the tool. The orbitoclast. A name you won't remember, but a shape you'll never forget. He doesn't hesitate. He lifts your eyelid with his thumb and slides the pick into the corner of your eye, right above the tear duct, beneath the bone of your brow. There's pressure, sharp and sudden. Your eye fills with water but can't blink. Your body goes rigid, but you don't scream. You can't. The tool is already wedged against the thin orbital bone. Then comes the tap. A small sharp hammer. 1, 2 strikes. The sound is muffled, but you feel it deep inside your head, like a crack through your skull that never quite breaks the surface. Something gives way. Not bone, not skin, something softer, something essential. You don't feel pain exactly, but there's a dislocation, a shift, a sensation like your thoughts being peeled sideways. He twists the instrument gently, like he's stirring soup. He calls it severing the white matter between the frontal lobes and the thalamus. You don't hear those words now. You'll learn them later, if you're capable of learning later. In the moment, you feel something slip. Something that was yours, something important. But it's too late now. It's gone. The pick is removed, wiped down, and prepared again. Time for the other side, he says with cheerful efficiency, as if he's adjusting a picture frame. Your face twitches involuntarily, your limbs refusing commands. There's nothing to say, nothing to do. You stay limp in the chair as the process is repeated. Antiseptic, needle, pressure, hammer, twist. You feel the same crack, the same deep shift, the same strange absence that follows. Your brain is no longer symmetrical. It's no longer whole. It's been interrupted. When he's finished, he steps back, wipes his hands, and declares the procedure a success. He always does. No one checks for bleeding or asks you how you feel. That isn't part of the process. The measure of success is silence, stillness, simplicity. You're not asked to speak, only to sit. A nurse places a cloth over your face, then removes it a moment later, as if something sacred has been completed. The chair is raised to a sitting position. Your head lolls forward, heavy and unfamiliar. Your eyes blink, but not quite together. Your vision stutters at the edges, the corners growing dim. You hear sounds, but they arrive without meaning. Language feels like distant static. Your name might have been said, but it doesn't reach you in time. They help you stand. Your legs hold you technically. You wobble, and someone steadies you with one hand on your elbow. You are guided out of the room. The hallway looks different now. Not longer or shorter, just wrong, as if the angles have shifted. The walls are too white. The floor is too loud beneath your feet. You walk like your shoes are filled with warm water. Back in your room, you're placed in bed. You lie still. You're not sure whether your eyes are open or closed. Everything is too bright and too far away. You hear breathing, and it might be yours, or it might be someone else's, or it might be the sound of your mind trying to restart itself and failing. Time passes in an inconsistent blur. Minutes stretch, hours vanish. Someone brings you food, and it smells of salt and paper. You don't eat, you don't sleep, you just lie there, not in pain, not quite, but dulled, dimmed, flattened. A lamp with a dusty bulb, a voice with the volume turned down. You don't cry, you don't remember how. When the nurse comes back later, she smiles. "You're doing very well," she says. She takes your pulse, notes your temperature, checks your pupils. She marks your chart. You don't respond. You blink once. That's enough. She pats your arm and tells you to rest. You do, because there's nothing else left. Somewhere in your skull, the messages are still trying to connect. The parts of your brain that once formed words or dreams or memories are trying to find one another again. But the paths have been cut. The wires have been rearranged. And though you still exist, technically, you're no longer quite yourself. You don't know what he removed. No one tells you. Not the name of the procedure. Not the part of the brain. Not the number of times he's done this. You're not supposed to know. Knowledge creates resistance. Resistance complicates treatment. You've been relieved of that burden. You are clean now. Quiet. You are, for the first time since arriving, truly easy to manage. Freeman doesn't visit again. He doesn't have to. You're checked off, marked as complete. A nurse files your charts with the others. One more success in a growing stack. One less source of trouble in the ward. You're left alone in your bed, staring at a ceiling you don't remember seeing before, feeling nothing in particular. And nothing here is the goal. They tell you you've made excellent progress. That's the phrase they use. Excellent progress. It doesn't mean what it used to mean. It doesn't mean you're healing or understanding or learning. It means you're easier now, simpler, predictable. Your chart includes words like stabilized and mild effect, and no one writes down pain anymore. You've stopped reporting it, or maybe you just forgot how. You're quiet. That alone is a triumph. You don't interrupt group therapy with questions. You don't cry in the dining hall. You don't ask to go home, because that concept feels increasingly abstract, something that belonged to someone else. You're not sure what your home looked like or who was in it. You think there might have been a mother, or a husband, maybe both, maybe neither. It's hard to tell what's a memory and what's leftover noise. The nurses smile when they pass your bed. They compliment your neatness. You fold your blankets in the morning, or at least you try. Your hands still work, though they don't always follow directions the first time. Your handwriting is illegible now, but you're not asked to write. You're not asked to do much at all. And that, in this place, is progress. You've been moved to a quieter ward, fewer incidents, lower maintenance. The patients here drift like leaves in a still pond, floating without purpose, but never making waves. It's peaceful if you don't think too hard about it. And you don't. Thinking requires friction, and friction is no longer part of your design. You feel smoothed out, like a river stone worn down to a featureless curve. Your appetite is strange. You eat when you're told, but not because you're hungry. Food tastes like texture, like temperature, but not like anything else. You chew slowly, mechanically, like you're waiting for instructions. You remember that you used to love something, some flavour, some dish, but now even the idea of taste seems indulgent. The grey meat, the soft peas, the overcooked rice, they all arrive and vanish without comment. You neither enjoy nor resent them. They're simply there, and then they're gone. Names escape you, not just other people's names, but your own. You see it on your chart, written at the top in tidy script, but it doesn't belong to you anymore. It's a label, a placeholder. When someone calls it out, it takes a moment for your body to respond, as if there's been a delay in transmission. Sometimes, even after you answer, you're not entirely sure they meant you. You wonder if anyone else feels the same. You never ask. Sleep comes easily now. Too easily. You nap without meaning to, drift off mid-activity, lose entire hours to silence. Dreams, if they happen, are soft and blurry. Sometimes they're not dreams at all, just leftover sounds from your last waking hour, playing in loops behind your eyelids. You never feel rested, but no one asks how you feel. They ask how you're functioning, and your ability to stay awake or not cry during breakfast is counted as sufficient proof that you are. When people visit the ward, inspectors, administrators, family members of other patients, you are sometimes wheeled out to the sunroom. You're put in a chair near the window. You're dressed, brushed, polished like furniture. The sunlight feels strange on your skin, too bright, like a performance light. You don't speak unless prompted. When someone greets you, you offer a soft, slow smile. Not because you feel happy, because that's what your muscles do now. Someone says you're one of Freeman's success stories. You hear it from two nurses speaking near the station. Textbook case, one says. So much calmer now. The other agrees. They speak as though you're not there. Maybe they don't realise you're listening. Maybe they don't care. You don't respond. You just keep folding the same washcloth in your lap, over and over, even though it's already clean. You used to feel sad. You remember that. Sadness had shape once, sharp edges, heat behind your eyes, the ache of wanting something different. You don't feel that now. You don't feel much of anything. There's a kind of peace in that, but it's not the kind that comforts. It's the peace of a locked door, of an empty hallway, of a light that was turned off and never turned back on. You've stopped waiting for it. You rarely speak, and when you do, it's brief and flat. The words arrive without colour or volume. Yes, no, thank you. That's the extent of it. You're praised for being cooperative, for being agreeable. You're told you've been doing well in therapy, even though you don't remember having any. Maybe therapy just means showing up. Maybe it means nothing now. You nod when they say it, because that's what you're supposed to do. One of the doctors tries a memory exercise once. He holds up a photo of a cat. You stare at it. He asks what it is. You say, animal. He smiles, writes something down. You don't know why he smiled. You knew it was a cat. You just couldn't get the word to move from your brain to your tongue in time. It happens a lot now. Words get caught in fog. You know things, but they don't show up when called. Like guests who no longer return your letters. You are, by all accounts, better. You do not scream. You do not panic. You do not touch the walls or talk to shadows or try to run. You sit when asked. You walk when led. You bathe without protest. The staff says you're calm, adjusted, manageable. That word echoes sometimes in the space where your thoughts used to be. Manageable. You think it means you've stopped asking to be understood. Your body still works mostly. You can walk, though your balance is slower. You can eat, though chewing feels like a chore. You can smile, though it feels hollow, like a mask you found and forgot to take off. You are no longer at risk of harming yourself. You are no longer considered a danger to others. In fact, you are rarely considered at all. The silence inside your head is not peaceful. It is hollow. You try to recall how things felt before, but memory is a museum you no longer have access to. The door is locked. The labels have peeled off. The exhibits are covered in dust. You suspect the past is still in there somewhere, but you're not allowed to visit it. Sometimes you feel the faint outline of something behind your eyes, a shadow of what used to be thought, an almost feeling, but it fades quickly, like a word on the tip of your tongue that slips away before it can be caught. You don't chase it. That would require more energy than you're permitted to use. There are no more check-ins scheduled, no more treatments, no next steps. You've arrived. This is what recovery looks like here. A soft, unresisting presence in a faded hospital gown, sitting on a bench beside others like you. Eyes unfocused, mouths closed, hands still. You are no longer a disruption. You are no longer a danger. You are, at last, what they wanted you to be. You are better now. And better is quiet. They say it with a smile, like it's the highest praise. You're so easy to care for. You hear it from nurses in the morning, from orderlies as they wheel you to group. You hear it in passing, when they think you're not listening, or when they're showing someone new around the ward. It's said warmly, like a compliment, but it never feels like one. It feels like being turned into furniture. You don't make noise, that's a key part of it. You don't shout or moan or cry at night. You don't fidget in group sessions. You don't refuse meals or medications. You shuffle quietly to where you're directed, eyes lowered, hands folded neatly. You do everything required of you, and only that, no more, no less. You've been reduced to a routine, and you perform it flawlessly. The nurses like you now. They say you're sweet. They say you're their favourite. You never used to be anyone's favourite. You were too intense, too resistant, too sad. Now you're calm, predictable, blank. They brush your hair in the mornings and guide you gently toward your chair, like they're tending a fragile piece of porcelain. You don't talk during the process. You just sit, pliable and obedient, and wait for the brushing to stop. In a place like this that counts as thriving, they call it low maintenance, like you're a houseplant or a machine with few moving parts. You take your medication without question. You eat without prompting. You bathe when told. You smile just enough to reassure them. You sleep most of the day, and when you're awake, you don't ask for anything. Not attention, not affection, not even explanation. You've been trained not to. There are other patients who still fight. They sob in the halls, or scream in the courtyard. They scratch at their own arms, press their faces to the walls, whisper things no one understands. You watch them sometimes from the bench near the window and feel nothing. Not pity, not judgment, just observation, like you're studying animals at a distance. You used to be like that. You think. You're not sure. You are rarely alone, but you're always lonely. The ward is full of bodies moving slowly, silently, like the tide. You sit next to people who used to have names, stories, families. Now they hum to themselves or stare into their laps. They are just like you, quiet, clean, manageable. You are together, but not connected. You forget them the moment they leave the room. Days are seamless. Breakfast leads to therapy, leads to lunch, leads to rest. You are always being moved from one soft place to another. The staff keep your schedule for you. You don't wear a watch. You don't need to know the time. Time happens to you, like weather, like background music. It is not something you participate in. It simply passes and you go with it. Your handwriting is almost gone. They don't ask you to write anymore. You hold a pencil awkwardly, like it's foreign to you, and when you press it to paper, the lines are shaky and strange. You used to know how to form letters, to spell your name, to sign for things. Now the words come out bent and broken, like they've been through a long journey and didn't survive the trip. You don't mind. No one asks you to write anyway. When visitors come to the ward, the few who still do, they are shown the quiet ones first, the easy ones, the success stories. That includes you. You are placed in a clean gown and brushed and made presentable, then wheeled into the sunroom like part of the decor. You are polite. You do not speak unless addressed. You are, above all else, non-threatening. The visitors nod approvingly. You are what they hope their own loved ones might become. Sometimes a name is spoken and it stirs something deep in your chest. A recognition, a flicker. Someone says it softly, perhaps an old friend or sibling or spouse, but you don't react in time. The connection fades before it reaches the surface. The face is familiar, but you cannot place it. They ask you if you remember them. You say yes because it seems like the correct answer. You smile, and they smile back, and a nurse writes down, oriented and cooperative in your file. Your thoughts no longer arrive in complete sentences, more like fragments, hazy images. You remember things like taste or colour, or the feel of wool against your skin, but not the context. You can recall the shape of a dog's ears without recalling if you ever owned one. You know the sound of music, but not the names of any songs. Most memories are flattened into feelings, and even those are faded now, like drawings left too long in the sun. People talk around you, decisions are made about you, charts are passed over your head, and signed by hands you've never shaken. You're not consulted, you're updated occasionally, if they remember. You are always the last to know what's happening in your own life, and still you're considered fortunate because you do not protest. Your name is written on a tag by your bed, and sometimes you read it like it belongs to someone else. You mouth the syllables slowly, trying to connect the sound to the shape of your own face, but it never lands. The name is just a label, a convenience, a way for people to refer to you without having to think too hard. You answer to it, but not because it means anything. Sometimes a nurse will hold your hand when they sit with you. They'll smile and speak gently, telling you what a good job you're doing, how helpful you've been, how proud they are of your recovery. You nod, even though you don't quite understand what you've done. You've existed, you've remained quiet, you've required no incident reports. That is your success. The hospital has taken you in completely. You no longer feel like someone who's inside it. You are part of it. You match the furniture. You mirror the rhythm. You are no longer in transition. You are settled. This is where you belong now. The question of when you'll go home has not been asked in months. You wouldn't know what to do with home, even if it were offered. Some of the staff talk about transferring you eventually to a long-term facility, a care home, somewhere quieter, with fewer doctors, fewer disruptions. You don't have a strong opinion. The word care sounds nice. The word home sounds fictional. You imagine a place with beige curtains and weak coffee and television that stays on all day. That seems as good a place to disappear as any. The parts of you that used to resist, the stubborn thoughts, the sharp instincts, the surges of anger or grief, are gone now. Or perhaps they're still there, trapped behind a barrier you can't reach. Either way, they don't surface anymore. You're a surface now, a smooth one, untouched, untroubled. Congratulations, they say, you're maintenance free, and no one really asks what it cost. There is no celebration, no announcement, no cake or card or visit from the doctor. No one tells you that you've crossed a threshold, that you've entered the stage of your care labelled post-procedure long-term. You only know something has shifted because the attention fades. The monitoring grows less frequent. The questions stop coming. You are no longer an active case, you are a result. Time does not pass here the way it used to. It stretches, droops, loops back on itself. Days arrive and vanish without shape. The difference between morning and afternoon is defined only by the timing of meals, which you forget as soon as you've eaten them. Holidays come and go, unmarked, unnoticed except for the odd decoration hung in the hallway, a paper wreath, a cartoon turkey, a flag taped to a bulletin board. You do not remember why these things are significant. You only know they mean something to someone else. Other patients disappear. Some are transferred. Some die. Some are simply gone. New ones arrive, wide-eyed and confused, still clinging to questions. You recognize the signs, the hesitation in their movements, the way their voices rise when asking why, the hope in their faces that there has been some mistake. You don't speak to them. You don't warn them. You just observe, and then you look away. They'll understand soon enough. The staff changes too. A nurse you vaguely remember leaves one day and is replaced by another whose name you never learn. An orderly disappears after a rumour about an incident. No one explains, no one asks. You realise that people become easier to forget once they've stopped speaking. That includes you. You're aware of this now, but distantly, as if it's happening to someone else, and you're simply watching from the next room. You've stopped marking time by anything except medication. Pills arrive in small paper cups, placed in your hand at regular intervals. You swallow them without question. You don't know what they're for. You used to wonder. Now you don't. The days are too soft, too long, too interchangeable to demand answers. Whatever they give you makes you sleep longer, speak less, feel even less than before. You think maybe that's the point. You live in a world padded by soft shoes, hushed voices, and the ever-present hum of fluorescent lights. That sound becomes the closest thing you have to a heartbeat. Low, steady, buzzing, just at the edge of your hearing. At night, it blends with the occasional wheeze of old plumbing or the shuffling footsteps of someone wandering the hallway in a thin robe. The silence here is never total. It's filled with the white noise of a place that refuses to acknowledge itself. The walls are the same beige throughout the building. Some call it cream, others say eggshell. Whatever the name, it is deliberately inoffensive. A non-colour, a background, the colour of things that are meant to be ignored. You look at it for hours without meaning to, your gaze drifting across it like wind across sand. There are no paintings, no mirrors, nothing that reflects anything back at you. The past is not welcome here, and the present is so diluted it hardly counts. Your schedule is written on a board you can't read anymore. You remember how to read, but the letters don't line up right. They squirm, blur, swim across the white surface like fish trapped behind glass. Someone tells you when to go to therapy, when to eat, when to walk the courtyard path 3 times, and then sit. You do what they say, not because you believe in the purpose, but because it fills the space between waking and sleeping. Therapy is no longer about talking. It's occupational now. They hand you wooden beads to sort by colour, blocks to stack, fabric squares to fold, tasks with no meaning beyond the movement. You do them slowly, your hands remembering how but your mind failing to connect the dots. You don't ask why you're doing these things. You don't ask anything anymore. You gave up questions around the time your answers stopped making sense. Sometimes you're taken outside. It's not freedom. It's supervision in fresh air. A fenced courtyard, some plastic chairs, a few patches of grass worn thin by pacing feet. The sunlight feels harsh, even when it's filtered through trees. You squint at it, sit down, and wait to be brought back in. Birds chirp, but you no longer recall their names. One lands near you once and you stare at it like it's a puzzle. A shape with wings, a sound with feathers. You've forgotten how long you've been here. No one tells you, and you don't ask. Time is a story that no longer applies to you. You exist in the after, not recovery, not decline, just this long level plateau of sameness. You begin to think that maybe this is what they mean by being stable. Not better, not healed, just still. Occasionally someone visits, a distant relative maybe, a social worker, someone who knew the old you. They ask questions gently, like they're afraid of waking something up. They call you by name, slowly, watching your face for signs of recognition. You smile. You always smile. It's safer that way. They leave reassured that you are doing well. You watch them go, feeling nothing in particular. You're aware that there is a version of yourself that once existed outside these walls. That person had preferences. That person had memories and flaws and stories worth telling. You do not hate that version. You just don't understand them anymore. They feel fictional, like a character you once read about in a book you can't quite remember the ending of. You try to picture their face and end up picturing yours instead. Expressionless, obedient, quietly dissolving. Staff still write notes on your chart, daily observations, behaviour logs, occasional reviews. You never see them, but you know they exist because you overhear the words. baseline consistent, minimal resistance, continued compliance. You're measured by your quiet, rewarded for your passivity. If anyone suspects there's more going on beneath the surface, they don't say it. They wouldn't know what to do with that information anyway. One night, you hear a woman crying down the hall. Not screaming, just a soft, persistent weeping. The kind that leaks out slowly, like a pipe under pressure. You sit up in bed, listening, and for a moment something stirs in you. Not sympathy, not recognition, just a flicker of motion behind the wall. A reminder that people can still feel things in here. You lie back down. By morning, she's quiet again. Your dreams, when they come, are slow and colourless, shapes moving without urgency. Words whispered too softly to understand. You used to dream in colour. You think. You used to wake up and write them down. Now you wake up already halfway through forgetting them. They vanish before you've opened your eyes. You stop trying to hold on to them. You are not dead, but you're not quite alive in the old sense either. You are maintained, supervised, preserved. You have been removed from the unpredictable mess of life and placed in a system that values silence more than selfhood. You are no longer a disruption. You are a body in a bed, a face in a file, a line item in a hospital report that says, status unchanged, patient cooperative. And that in this place is considered the best possible outcome. Your name appears in a report. You don't know when or who writes it, or what version of you it's meant to describe, but it happens. Somewhere, in a paper you'll never see, in a medical journal you wouldn't have understood even before the procedure, you are listed. Your file number, your condition, your positive outcome. You are noted for your responsiveness, your compliance, your transformation. You are, officially, one of the good ones. You're not told this directly. Of course not. But the change is noticeable. More doctors start visiting your wing. Not to speak with you, to look at you, to observe, to nod at the shape of you sitting quietly in a chair, to murmur to one another in soft professional tones about dosage, dosage, dosage. They say impressive case. They say clean result. They say functioning baseline. You sit very still while they do this. You've learned that stillness keeps them happy. One day, you're dressed more carefully than usual. A nurse helps brush your hair, straightens the collar of your gown. You're taken to a room you've only passed in the hallway before. A small office with a large window and a pair of cameras. One on a tripod, one held by a man who doesn't introduce himself. There's a doctor sitting beside you, smiling with the air of someone who believes they're saving the world. You recognize him vaguely from somewhere else, maybe from a hallway, maybe from a radio. He talks a lot. He explains your treatment, not to you, but to the camera. He discusses your diagnosis, your history, your presented symptoms. He uses phrases like disruptive behavior and marked mood instability, though you don't remember being disruptive. You don't remember most of what he says. The words arrive in long, polite waves and you float along their surface. You hear him say you've made remarkable progress, that your behavior post-operation is exemplary, that you represent the future of psychiatric intervention. You're asked to smile. You try. The corners of your mouth move upward, but not far. It's the best you can manage. You blink at the camera. The lights are too bright, the room too small. You feel like a statue someone forgot to sculpt all the way through, but no one complains. You are praised for your calm demeanour, your stillness, your serenity. The doctor says it's a visible sign of your successful reintegration. You're not sure what you've been reintegrated into. The man with the camera nods, takes another shot, another angle. At one point, he tells you to look at the doctor and smile again. You do. You sit with your hands folded in your lap, posture steady, eyes just slightly unfocused. It's the look they all seem to want. You are not there to be present. You are there to be seen. Afterward, You're wheeled back to your room. The nurse praises your performance. She says you were wonderful, cooperative, photogenic. You say nothing. You're not sure what the right response is, and silence has served you well so far. Later, someone brings you a ginger cookie on a napkin. You assume this is a reward. You chew it slowly, but you can't taste anything. You hear your name mentioned again a few days later in the hallway, this time by someone in a lab coat you don't recognise. That one's doing great, they say. A real model case. You're nearby but not included in the conversation. You never are. You've become something people talk about, never to. A success story isn't a person. It's a product. Word seems to spread. For a while, there are more visitors than usual. Residents from other wards, medical students, men in suits with shiny shoes. Some come alone, some in groups. They all want to see the calm ones, the cleaned up ones, the proof that the system works. They call it progress. They call it hope. You are walked out to the sunroom more often now, seated where the light can fall across your lap, where you can be pointed at and described. Occasionally, one of them asks you a question. You answer simply. Never too loud, never too long. That's part of the performance too. You wonder if Dr. Freeman knows your name. Probably not. He doesn't need to. He knows your type. Female, mid-20s, formerly emotional, now regulated. A good outcome. You've heard he's back on the radio again, giving interviews, making speeches, talking about the thousands of patients he's helped. He calls them gifts to their families. He says they can go home now. You're not going home. There's a photograph of you in someone's office. You saw it once, briefly, when the door was left open. You recognised your gown, your hair, your smile. You were seated beside a doctor, hands folded, eyes gently lowered. The caption below read, "Post-treatment, 6 weeks." It's a nice photo. You look very polite, very docile. You look like someone who can be trusted to sit still and not ask difficult questions. Another article comes out. You don't read it, but you hear about it. The nurse who brings your medication mentions it while adjusting the blanket on your legs. She says it's wonderful that people are finally understanding how helpful the treatment has been. They're showing your picture again, she adds, smiling. You're an example of what's possible. You nod because she seems to want you to. You begin to understand what you are now. You are not a patient, not really. You are a testimonial, a symbol, a soft, human-shaped confirmation that the system works. They don't need you to speak, or remember, or function in any full sense. They need you to sit where you're placed and not resist. To look calm, even if you don't feel calm. To smile faintly, even if you no longer understand what the word happy means. Sometimes deep inside your chest, something twists. You don't have words for it. Not anger, not grief. Something softer, like the ache of remembering a feeling without knowing its name. It doesn't last long. Your mind smooths it over before it can become dangerous. You return to the blankness, to the script, to the role they've written for you. It's easier that way. The staff continues to praise your behaviour. You are referred to as a success during rounds. They discuss you as if the outcome is permanent, as if nothing can go wrong now. You sit quietly nearby, absorbing the echo of their confidence. Sometimes they forget you're even listening. Sometimes they speak about you in the past tense, even though you're still in the room. You wonder if the other patients envy you, or pity you, or if they even notice. Some still shout, some still cry. Some have not yet been helped. You watch them from your seat by the window and feel nothing, not relief, not fear, just absence. You're what they'll become eventually, or what they'll fail to become. Either way, you're the example, the silent trophy. And outside this place somewhere, Dr. Freeman speaks to another crowd. He describes how he gave you your life back. He talks about dignity, about peace, about progress. His voice carries through radio waves and lecture halls, and every time he says your name, if he says it at all, it's as evidence. You are not a person, you are a proof. You sit, you smile, You blink on cue, and the world applauds. You're not alone here. You never were. The building hums with quiet bodies. Beds line the walls of every ward, every floor. There are always new names on the chalkboard, new files on the desk, new patients in gowns that don't quite fit. Every week someone else arrives, and every week someone else disappears. No one talks about where they go, but the beds never stay empty for long. They come from everywhere. Veterans from the war, brought in with trembling hands and 1,000-yard stares. Housewives who stopped making breakfast. Teenagers who refused to stop crying. Teachers who started talking to people who weren't there. Factory workers who drank too much, spoke too little, laughed at the wrong time. There's no single story, no common profile, just a shared outcome. They were all too difficult, too broken, too loud, too much. And so, they were sent here, to be made less. Some arrive in silence, carried by family members with downturned eyes. Others arrive shouting, sedated, restrained. You hear them down the hall. When the doors are closed, the echo of panic, the dragging of shoes. At first you flinch at the sound. Now you barely notice. You've learned to separate arrival noise from the quiet that follows. That quiet is the sound of compliance. It's the goal. It's what they want. You recognize the pattern now. First they observe. They test. They make notes on clipboards and whisper in doorways. Then comes the evaluation, the signatures, the word candidate spoken just loud enough to matter. Then the procedure. It doesn't always happen in the same room, but you know when it's happening. The nurses move faster that day. The patients are shuffled. The silence thickens. There is always a pause in the day's rhythm, and then a small sigh, like something has been smoothed out. And then the patient returns, or they don't. The ones who do come back are different. You can see it immediately. There's a lag in their gaze, like they're watching the world from behind a window. Their steps are slower, their posture soft, their voices quieter, if they speak at all. Some forget where they are, some forget who they are. You hear one woman ask the same question every 5 minutes. Her voice puzzled but polite. Am I supposed to be here? No one answers her anymore. They've stopped trying. Sometimes the procedure is called a miracle. You hear that word from the doctors, from the articles pinned to the bulletin board, from the lectures that echo faintly through the halls when visiting professionals gather in the conference room. It's described as a breakthrough, a gift to society, a way to bring peace to troubled minds. You've seen the piece. It looks like someone staring at a wall for 3 hours without blinking. The numbers grow. You don't have a calendar, but even you can tell the pace is increasing. There are more faces every week, more trays in the dining room, more names on the rosters. The beds are closer together now. Patients are doubled in rooms that used to hold one. You're told it's because the treatment is working so well. The hospital is accepting more and more people who need help. But no one here gets well. They just get quiet. You meet a young man who used to be a writer. He tells you this in a low voice, on a rare afternoon, when conversation is allowed. He used to write stories, he says, but now the words don't come the way they used to. His hands still move like they remember, but the pages stay blank. He looks away when he says it, and you understand the feeling without having to reply. 2 days later, he's gone. When he returns, he doesn't speak at all. A girl with long hair draws constantly in the activity room. She fills pages with shapes and shadows, never quite coherent, always just a little off. Her hands move quickly, like something inside her is trying to escape. You see her disappear into the West Wing one morning. When she comes back, she doesn't draw anymore. She folds paper now, slow and neat, over and over. The same shape, the same crease. A nurse tells her she's doing great. You overhear a doctor say that the success rate is improving, that the lobotomies are cleaner now, that the side effects are acceptable. You don't know what qualifies as acceptable. Is it the twitch in the man's left eye that never goes away? The woman who cries without sound? The boy who forgets his name every morning and laughs when he hears it again, like it's a joke no one will explain. You're told the treatment is voluntary, but you know that's not true. Maybe it used to be. Maybe it still is on paper. But you've seen how it works. The slow build-up of pressure, the strategic silence, the refusal to answer questions until you stop asking them. The moment you resist, you become more interesting. And once you're interesting, it's only a matter of time. Some patients beg for the procedure. That's the hardest part to watch. They've been told it will make the pain stop, and they believe it. Or maybe they just want to be praised again, to be told they're improving. You hear one man plead to be fixed. Over and over, he asks for help. He says he can't stand the noise in his head. He says he'll do anything. A few days later, he's wheeled past you, limp and grinning. He's quieter now. They all are. The hospital is becoming more efficient. The procedure that once took hours now takes minutes. Freeman no longer does them all himself. There are others now, trained and ready. The process is streamlined. One patient after another. Tap, twist, done. You hear someone joke that it's like tuning a piano. A nurse laughs and then quickly stops. No one mentions how many of the tuned patients stop feeding themselves, or stop speaking, or stop altogether. There's a bulletin board in the hallway outside the main ward. Sometimes it has articles pinned to it, clippings from magazines, reprints from medical journals. One shows a smiling woman holding a broom, her hair perfect, her face blank. The caption reads, "Back to normal." After years of turmoil, you stare at it for a long time, then return to your room. You think you used to have a broom once. You can't remember what you did with it. You are not exceptional. You are not rare. You are one of many, a symptom of a system that doesn't ask what's wrong, only how quickly it can be erased. There are others like you in every ward, in every building, in every photograph labelled after. They sit with you in the dining room. They sleep across from you at night. They shuffle through the halls with their mouths slightly open, not from awe or pain, but from disuse. The treatment continues. Every day, more arrive. Every day, more are made manageable. Quiet, compliant, better. You hear Freeman is expanding the program. More hospitals, more hands, more tools. A doctor says the public is finally starting to understand. That's what he calls it. Understanding. You wonder what they'd say if they spent a day inside your head. If they could feel what's left of you moving around in there, like something unfinished. But the procedure works. That's the point. It works on paper. And on paper, you're fine. You don't remember much now. You wake up and there is a ceiling, a bed, a warm blanket tucked in too tightly, a nurse who smiles and says your name like she's been rehearsing it all night. You blink and wonder who she's talking to. The name sounds familiar, but not like something that belongs to you. More like something you once borrowed and forgot to return. You sit up when told, you eat when told, you go to group when told. You don't resist, not out of agreement, but because there's nothing left inside you that knows how. The motions have become muscle memory, detached from understanding. Your arms lift the spoon. Your mouth opens. Your legs carry you to the hallway. But the reason behind any of it is gone. You live in gestures now, not thoughts. When someone asks how you're feeling, you answer fine. Not because you are, but because the word requires no thinking. It is the correct answer. You say it the way people say, bless you, or thank you, as a social reflex, not a truth. You don't know what it would mean to feel anything beyond the mild discomfort of existing. There's no language left in you for sorrow or fear or joy, just a shallow sense of waiting. Somewhere along the way, your memory softened and then dissolved. You can't recall how long you've been here. You don't know what season it is. You can't remember your own age. You suspect you've had a birthday recently. The nurse brought you a cupcake once, with a candle already extinguished. You didn't understand what it was for, but you thanked her anyway. She seemed pleased. You see a mirror once and don't recognize the face in it. It's not horrifying, just disconnected. A neutral expression on a pale, quiet figure. You tilt your head, and it tilts too. You raise your hand, and it raises, but it feels like watching someone else follow your lead. You turn away before you can decide if it's you. But the clipboard remembers. There's one by the nurse's station, several really, clipped neatly to their posts, organised by ward, by room, by condition. You see the staff flip through them, mark notes, update charts. You don't know what's being written, but you know you're in there. Somewhere between the pages is your diagnosis, your intake date, your behaviour logs. Your chart is still growing, even if you're not. The file in the cabinet bears your name, your full name, in block letters across the tab. Inside is your history, the letter your sister wrote recommending your admission, the transcript from your intake interview, the procedure summary signed by Dr. Freeman, the follow-up notes, the medication log, the progress assessments. Every part of you that mattered has been catalogued, preserved, recorded. You've faded, but the paperwork has not. There's a strange permanence to it. You don't speak anymore, but your file still does. It speaks in bullet points, in checkboxes, in scrawled notations made between meals and bed checks. You're calm. You're stable. You're no longer resistant. These are listed like achievements. You are described in terms of absence. No longer disruptive, no longer delusional, no longer in need of special supervision. You are what happens when a body is left behind after the mind is cleaned out. You are cured. That word appears often. Cured of what is never entirely clear. Cured of emotion, perhaps. Cured of resistance. Cured of the need to be known. No one uses words like lobotomy or damage or loss. That language doesn't appear in the file. What appears are the statistics. Responding well to intervention. No behavioural incidents in 30 days. Continued signs of successful reintegration into structured care environments. You are, on paper, exactly what they wanted you to become. You don't visit the outside world, but it still visits you, through photographs clipped to corkboards, through newscasts overheard from the staff lounge, through clippings tacked up in the hallway. You see the smiling faces of other patients like you, the ones who sat for photos, the ones used in brochures. One of them might be you. You can't tell anymore. It's not that you don't recognise the face. It's that it doesn't matter. The hospital keeps moving even as you stop. New patients arrive. New procedures are performed. The staff rotates. Names change. Faces blur. But the folders remain intact and undisturbed, holding the ghosts of everyone who passed through. The building has a memory, even if you don't. The records never forget. Even as you forget your own name, your birthday, the name of your mother, your first love, the smell of a season, the sound of your own voice, the clipboard still remembers. There's something quietly horrifying in that the version of you preserved in handwriting and filing cabinets is more complete than the one sitting on this bench. That the paper version of your life contains more truth than your brain now can. You no longer know why you were admitted. You no longer know what they did to you. But the clipboard does. The clipboard has charts. The clipboard has names and dates and signatures. It knows your mind better than you do now. If you were to vanish, fall asleep one night, and never wake up, someone would mark it in a log. They'd close your file, staple your death certificate to the last page, and write a summary. Patient remained stable post-treatment. No further incidents, final condition, peaceful. It would sound like a success, like a mercy. No one would mention the silence that led up to it. No one would describe the long, slow drowning of identity. Just one final checkbox ticked. You think sometimes that you used to be a person, a full person, with opinions, fears, irritations. Someone with a favourite song, someone who liked the smell of winter, or cried at films, or had a habit of biting her lip when nervous. That person is gone, or perhaps not gone, just misplaced. lost in the folds of your rewired brain, a misfiled document, a case of mistaken identity between who you were and what you've become. But even if you've forgotten her, the chart has not. Somewhere, in a drawer, your history is still organised. Your name, your symptoms, your reaction to the treatment, the number of times you were observed blinking at the ceiling, the day you stopped talking, the first time you smiled without being prompted. These moments are data points now, clinical facts, evidence of efficacy. No one reads them with emotion. No one sees a tragedy, just a well-managed case. You wonder if the file will outlive you. If, decades from now, a researcher might find it, leaf through the yellowed pages, and read your story like an artifact. They'll know what was done. They'll know what it cost, but they won't know you, because there's nothing left of you now but ink on a page and the empty echo of footsteps in the ward. You sit in your chair by the window, hands folded, eyes unfocused. You are calm, you are still, you are finished, and the clipboard remembers. That brings us to the end of tonight's story. Not of healing, but of erasure, of a life rewritten in ink and silence, of a patient who vanished by degrees until only the paperwork remained. If you're still awake, thank you for staying with me in this dim, padded corner of history, where calm was compliance, memory was optional, and care meant never being asked again. If you'd like early access to future stories, ad-free audio of these episodes, or just want to support the show, you'll find the Patreon link in the description. You can also like, subscribe, or leave a comment with the forgotten histories you'd like to hear next. And if you're listening on a podcast app, a rating or review helps others find their way to these stories. Sleep well.